A very good evening to you all. Thank you, Mr. Karthik, for joining for this discussion today. All of us are really looking forward to learn about your experiences and what's happening in healthcare according to your viewpoint. But before I jump into some of the specific questions that I have, it would be great to understand a little bit about you. So, what's your hobby or interest you have outside of cricket that really might surprise your colleagues or people who are listening to this? And obviously, don't say cricket because everybody knows that.
No,
So,
no, obviously, cricket just runs in my blood, and it's not because of that. It's just that it's a team sport, gels very well with the philosophy, in hospitals, etc. So, if you ask me, outside of work, that consumes most of my time. I do play a lot of tournaments across, the year, and we do have a very, very large play as far as cricket is concerned in Manipal as well. The recent tournament had about 33 teams.
wow.
We've got a very, very large women's contingent also, playing. So, I mean, it just brings the people together. Look, we as a group have grown through acquisitions. And it's not very easy to actually go ahead and look at putting all this together in terms of culture, etc. So, therefore, cricket has been a big culture builder. Outside of that, I can force myself to say I kind of walk. There is a certain spiritual side of me which actually is very engaged when I actually have my sessions with the Almighty, etc. But actually, it would all boil down to cricket, because it's been a huge learning, and between sport and management there is a lot of similarity, and you really are able to go ahead and pick up a lot of nuances in people, their traits. How do they actually go ahead and look at working effectively in teams? How are they able to lead? How are they able to handle pressure, etc.? So this game actually teaches you quite a lot, and therefore, I just would go ahead and stop at cricket, and nothing more than that.
That really sounds interesting. What's that one gadget or tool you wish existed to make healthcare more efficient?
See, Gaurav, I'll tell you what. Again, I'm just going to give you a cricket example. In the recent Shark Tank, there was this little device that you can actually put on a cricket bat, which is called a straight bat, which gives you all the analysis of how your drives have been, how was your bat lift been, etc. If you can get hold of that kind of a device inside, and you could wear that, and it keeps warning you right now that you need a little knee check, you need a little heart check, you need a little spine check, etc. You're getting a little bit of your back is not as straight as it was yesterday. It probably, again, borrowing from the world of cricket, this could give that complete analytics on your health, so that you're at least better prepared, and it kind of becomes a health astrologer for you, predicting stuff. So if that gadget was there, it would probably be very useful for us.
I think that was an insight for me today. I'll definitely Google and go back and check this out. But a very interesting one, definitely. And thank you for sharing that. Uh, as a group head, the chief operating officer of Manipal Health Enterprises, what strategies at a larger level you have implemented to improve patient experience across your network?
Look, Gaurav, I think the consumer buying behavior in health is undergoing a very tectonic shift, because the other industries have gone ahead and made it much easier, for them to actually go ahead and interact. While on the one side, digitization and convenience is going up, healthcare still, hospitals still, the touch and feel of it is very, very important in that space. So ours is encompassing convenience today. Much of the power has gone on to the consumer. Earlier, to the patients rather, they used to actually call up the hospital for their reports, fixing appointments, for a whole lot of stuff that today we passed it on to them. Our app is fairly comprehensive. They could download their reports. They could go ahead, look at their trend lines. They could fix appointments. They could even fix a video consult, etc. From a convenience platform that is there.
Yeah.
As they start coming into the system, discharge times have been a big pain point for patients, and healthcare is a very complex piece. You don't know what you're getting into. So we try to go ahead and make them aware of the procedures that they're getting into, so that they are more familiar when they actually come into the hospital. We have a huge program around patient attendance, who become a very, very important segment, because most of the time when the major event of a surgery is going on, the patient is anesthetized. But the patient attendant is, up there conscious, and really trying to go ahead and understand what's going on in there. So patient attendants become a very, very big piece of this whole. Plus, we've tried to go ahead and look at a segmentation of patients as well. People who are coming for high complex procedures, how do we actually go ahead and treat them with a little more of kids' gloves than people coming in for lesser complex ailments? Senior citizens is a cohort that we've actually picked out to go ahead and look at intensified thrust and care, etc. So these are some of the stuff that we've actually gone ahead, and so there is a little bit of tech, there is a little bit of touch. So it's a combination of tech and touch that defines our a service strategy. Obviously, patient feedback is taken far more seriously than it was earlier. Today patients are able to articulate their experiences much better than what they've been in the past. So that's been a huge learning for us. So we try and look at patient feedback very, very seriously. We tend to meet a lot more patients in terms of going ahead and doing dipsticks with them. So it's very important that we understand, because unfortunately in healthcare, unlike an automobile, a salesperson can drive an automobile to find out what the car or motorbike is. Here, I can't undergo a heart surgery to experience what the patient underwent, right? So therefore, listening to them makes us far, far more intelligent. So this is how I'll, in broad and short, define our service strategy.
I think very well summarized, and, kind of a larger level perspective of what's happening at your organization. And I actually love the whole idea of your focus even on patients, families, because a lot of times I guess that gets missed because everybody is only talking of patient centricity, patient at the center, focusing on patient and his experience. But largely it's that whole family around that is also going through maybe a different level of stress, or a higher level of stress at that point of time. So thank you for sharing that. With all the success and all the good things that you have been doing, obviously there are many challenges which are not very visible to the outside world of what has helped for any of the project or any of the initiative go live and be successful about it. So what have been the key challenges that you have encountered in managing a really large organization or a healthcare system like this, and how have you gone about in addressing these challenges? If you could just give one or two examples, I think that will be really great.
See, Gaurav, for us, the overarching theme in terms of our growth has been growth through acquisitions. And therefore, we're really looking at different cultures actually coming together under one umbrella of a very Christian brand. Now, look at East for us. East is made up of four brands. It was Columbia Asia first, it was Amory, then we actually picked up Medica, and now they're all coming under one umbrella of Manipal. So there are four brands, four different cultures, etc. So trying to go ahead and look at getting them to align to a uniform culture, which would then mean consistency in service, consistency in thought processes, ideas, execution, etc., has been the biggest challenge, because India is made up of very, very different ethos and cultures, actually, as you start to go ahead and look at. So that consumes most of our time. We've been trying to go ahead and, there is a saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast, and it is really true. While you can try and strategize, etc., culturally there is no meeting point. It could be very, very difficult for us to go ahead and look at success, because how do we win them over? How do we actually go ahead and look at putting across points that would create this one culture for Manipal? Sums up a whole lot of our, challenges in terms of getting people integrated, because there is that fear, we've been taken over, what's actually going to go ahead and, happen to us, etc. So that I would define as the biggest, challenge, opportunity, as well as we try to win them over. Obviously, healthcare is now complex with increasing challenges in terms of healthcare buying that the consumers are undergoing, that shift in their buying behavior, etc. Trying to keep up pace with that, obviously, will and getting the entire system to believe in the fact that the consumer is changing, their needs are changing, their thoughts are changing, how are they buying health is changing, all makes it obviously a lot more challenging for us to actually go ahead and give them what they want. Because post-COVID, especially, entire shift of how patients used to buy health pre-COVID and post-COVID is very, very different. And therefore, we'll have to keep up pace with that, changing aspirations and needs of consumers, and what they want out of large brands, their expectation, etc., has changed dramatically. So, the acquisition challenges, trying to build culture, and trying to keep up pace with the changing habits of patients would be the two largest challenges right now.
Yes, and I can't even imagine, what kind of challenge it would be. You described it in such a simpler and an easy way, but then, as you said, that merging cultures of four different organizations and making sure that, people from top to bottom to the last security person who is standing at the entrance has, or fold themselves into one culture. I can't even imagine how difficult that would be, but I'm sure that, you are leading the way and you are able to manage that. So thank you again for sharing that information with us. Now, you did talk about in your earlier comment about an app that you have for the hospital wherein people could do video consults, book their appointments, get their reports. Which are the other ways that, you are looking at largely on integrating this new kind of technologies that are there to stay at our forefront of providing patient care or a seamless patient care?
See, one aspect, Gaurav, is we're trying to go ahead and look at our home care, because healthcare is shifting a little bit, to home, and people are having the confidence to, go ahead and get treated at home. Post-COVID, again, this phenomenon started. So home care and your tech integration with home health is going to be important. Video consultations, we've got a great platform in Amwell. We're working with Google closely on that. Again, much of what we could do in terms of primary health can come through video consults, and after that, the triaging and the physicality of healthcare can go ahead and begin. So that's something that we're actually going ahead and looking at. And obviously, I told you, home care is a big piece. Within the hospital, we are actually having a tie-up with iSenses from the UK for our step-down ICU projects. Because earlier, what used to happen was, people who needed, ICU care were in ICU, and people who did not need actual critical care admission were also in critical care for want of a system that could give you an early warning score. With iSenses, what happens is we do have a step-down ICU concept, and this entire technology gives us those early warning scores, so we know exactly when to push patients to ICU, so that those ICU beds can actually get freed up for the people who need them. Because there have been several times occasions when the the ICU bed is occupied by a person who would have required lesser order care, but for want of technology intervention, we had to admit them there. So today, most of those patients get into the step down ICU, and basis the early warning score, they are moved, and that's actually gone ahead and helped us quite a bit. The wearables piece is actually trying to go ahead and build its own position in the Indian market. So that's something that again we've started to experiment with in terms of people who've undergone angioplasties, undergone knee replacements. They take the wearables, and go home, and it's actually tracked. Reminders are sent so that the post-hospitalization discipline, which is a little poor in our country, starts to get monitored more closely. Because when you're disciplined post a surgery, etc., the recovery becomes faster and it becomes surer as well. So these are some of the tech pieces that we do. We're trying to go ahead and look at genomics. We're trying to go ahead and look at organ-specific technology interventions, etc. But I would, look at the home care piece is pretty much large. The video consult piece being there. I told you about the iSenses, solution.
Yeah.
These are and the wearables are something that we actually are quite bullish about.
Yeah, I think these wearables have been definitely very, very interesting on how they are playing a role in patients' life and even providing support to the hospitals in kind of alerting if there are any emergencies that's going to happen or things like that. So I think it's really coming up in a big way, and there are definitely a great help and a support to provide day-to-day care for patients, whether in the hospital or outside hospital in their own environment. So I guess, yes, you're perfectly right in stating how helpful they have been. And I'm sure they have been similarly helpful for you at your organization as well. Now, if you have to switch gears a bit and move from largely the organization to your style of leadership. So if you could talk to us about, what are your secret mantras that people can learn from you. What's been your style of leadership? Because you have been driving such an important portfolio and with so many diverse people, handling people from so many diverse backgrounds. I think that will be a great and a learning for all of us who are listening. And also, how has this style of yours actually influenced largely the culture at Manipal Health?
See, Gaurav, I mean, if you actually start to look at this, hospital is a very hierarchy conscious industry. now, and you can feel like a king or a queen, sitting in a hospital director's seat or a COO seat. But I think you don't really get to understand the marketplace really well, because much of healthcare is rendered at the front line. So if you do not spend time with your frontline folks, you probably will miss what's actually happening in the industry. And there is again another saying that in services industry, the higher you go, the further you go away from your consumer. So again, cricket has helped me. 10 of our team members are nurses. So we exactly know what happens in an operation theater, what happens in an ICU, what are patients, asking for. So I tend to spend a lot of time with the frontline folks. And we do believe here in Manipal that hierarchy is just for a context of economics and salary setting, and not necessarily to actually go ahead and, dominate conversations. So that's something that, I tend to do. Second is, I do believe that as leaders, you need to impart knowledge, you need to impart learning, and you need to go ahead and, provide that atmosphere of people to express themselves. Again, from the world of cricket, Rishabh Pant is the cricketer he is today because the captain and the coach told him, go express yourself on the cricket field. If they had actually bound him, he would have probably been half the cricketer that he is today. So today, if you start looking at your frontline people, if you start looking at your middle managers, the moment you're able to go ahead and get them to express themselves, the number of ideas that come out, you're a more intelligent leader. And the organization has got so many opportunities actually going ahead and coming up, because these people are far more closer to the ground. They have their eyes and ears to the ground, but sometimes what happens, we just lock them up. We don't let them express. It's a one-way street. So we've tried in across all our leadership to maintain the two-way communication where people are not scared to express themselves. That's why I said, once your hierarchy clause goes away and people are able to talk in meetings, express themselves, it becomes a far, far better organization to actually, go ahead and look. The student philosophy of mine of actually seeking knowledge has also been there. Every 7 years, I've gone back to a B school to go ahead and, acquire knowledge, because I do believe that, you will need to constantly reinvent yourself. And if you have to go ahead and, work with the 20 somethings or the Gen Z that they're actually going ahead and talk, it's a very different world out for them. They don't understand the way we are actually going ahead and speaking. So to understand them, you need to actually go back, one, theoretically back to learning. Second, again, spending time with them. It's intelligence, because they don't really believe in the conservative form of management. Their ideology towards life is very, very different. They don't like, one-way communication. They want to actually, speak. So that vibrancy of youth. So if you really look at it, the entire thing has been built on abolishing hierarchy, looking at more humane way or a more humble way of approaching this whole problem, spending a lot of time with the frontline people, giving a lot of learning and imparting knowledge, so that people are going to respect you as a leader. See, at the end of the day, you can't lead by fear. You need to lead by respect. So if you do not give them that learning, if you don't tell them what they've not heard, you're not going to go ahead and get much of their, airtime. So that's again very, very important. And as for me, from the point of view of, if I have to impart knowledge, I need to have that. So I tend to go back to the drawing board and keep acquiring that from time to time.
I guess very, very interesting thoughts that you have shared. But if I have pull out one secret recipe or sauce of Mr. Karthik's leadership, I think that boils down to one sport called cricket. Because, the kind of analogies you have given from the time that we had connected for this, I think it all just makes so much of sense that, how you bring people together, how they feel that they are part of one team, how they feel that they are comfortable in sharing what's happening. That further leads you as a leader to understand what more is required on the ground for the team as well as for the patients that we are serving. I think that ultimately makes so much of sense when you start connecting all these dots together to what you said. And I'm really happy that, I could hear this and you could share this with us. So thank you for that. If we have to move towards a larger perspective on the future of healthcare in India, what do you think are the key trends of India's healthcare future, and how is largely Manipal Health preparing for these upcoming trends?
See, we did discuss that briefly, Gaurav, and I told you tech will play a very, very big role. Consumer, buying behavior changing, and how a brand's actually going to go ahead and run with that is very important. Just flash forward to say 2040 or 45. those kids born in 2005, 2006, who've been that electronic generation, who've been that technology generation, will now look at a very, very different, stepping from hospitals, from the way traditional health was, actually bought. How are we actually going to go ahead? And so it's all about how are we aligning our, entire strategy to actually meet the changing, consumer demands? Because I'm just trying to tell you, go further down from 2040, 2050, maybe call centers as people may not even want to call a hospital to fix an appointment. Maybe the entire consultation could completely go online. They would look at solutions on convenience, which are very, very different from where the health, hospitals were run, or are being, run right now. So to keep an eye on the future, to actually go ahead and closely follow what's actually going in and happening, and how quickly can changes happening in one industry, one service industry. It could be banking, it could be hospitality, etc. How do we learn from, because it's the same consumer who's going across each of this? How do we actually pull that and go ahead and look at the appropriateness in healthcare, etc.? Will define how it is. It's going to be a very different world. Gaurav, we've seen the signs of change happening, and I was just reading an article, yesterday or day before, where in the context of marketing spends, how television and print have gone down, and how digital has actually started moving up by 20-21% CAGR. So that if you start to go ahead and look at all that, the emphasis of healthcare and much of the other industries is shifting towards a very, very different distribution point, and we need to go ahead and look at it, actively from there. And every day we are starting to go ahead and see very, very, very different changes. See, for instance, a simple example in a project that we did to go ahead and enhance consumer convenience was a nursing handover. We'd actually gone and looked at a little tech solution so that patients want nurses to spend more time with them and not go ahead and do statistics and filling into the computer, etc. Nursing handovers took a very, very long time. So the nurse who was going out and the nurse who was coming in at least took 45, 50 minutes for that handover. With a technology solution, it takes about 7 or 8 minutes, and the entire information is available for the incoming nurse. The outgoing nurse is able to go home early, spend time with family. The incoming nurse is able to come back and within the 7th or 8th minute go and talk to the patients and spend time with them. So I'm just trying to tell you, and each of these little points, as you start to look at the hospitals, and I don't believe each time you walk around the hospital, every step is an opportunity for us. There was certain predictability about this industry. There was a conservative approach that this is the way healthcare will work, this is the way hospitals will work. So let's continue the working this way. Consumers have given a slap on our face and said that, "Boss, this is what we need. You better start to go ahead and direct your thoughts this way." And that's the tectonic shift that has happened. All of us are now trying to go ahead and look at moving in there. And the quicker we move, the more successful we be.
Yeah, so very apt remarks, and I think technology is definitely a no-brainer as we move towards the future of healthcare, whether it is India or we look at on a global perspective. Technology, the way it has impacted even our personal lives, with all the apps from ordering food to ordering grocery to vegetables to even booking tickets and kind of doing anything and everything under the roof. Though patient in a hospital setup, it is taking some time, but as you rightly said, and we have also been experiencing that we have to move towards it. That's the only way out. And as you also said earlier, it's like a BC and an AC, the before COVID era and an after COVID era, how things have changed. I think technology has definitely moved 10 steps ahead in just this 1.5 to 2 year time period to understand what more patients expect and what more do we need to deliver for patients for a seamless care. So again, thank you for sharing that. My last question to you is about IPSC 2025. We are very happy and honored to have you there as a speaker and as a panelist for one of our sessions at IPSC. We're really looking forward to meet you there. What excites you the most, and how do you see this conference influencing the future of healthcare quality and patient safety?
Look, Gaurav, I mean, when you really look at quality and patient safety, I think that both of them need to be the overarching themes in healthcare, because the eventuality is mortality in this industry. So, obviously, patient safety and quality assumes great significance above anything else, if you really ask me. The patient safety conference has been going on in the past. Polo Hospital has been a damn good job. The best thing is that you start to go ahead and learn from various players over here. And then even if you were to go ahead and pick up 2, 3 very, very good points and come back and implement in your system where the patient is going back home safe. So my biggest, the factor that I'm looking forward is to go ahead and spend time with experts. Go and spend time with a panelist. How are they actually going ahead and looking at this piece? And futuristically, as we start to go ahead and look at giving more and more importance to patient safety and quality, what is it that will actually go ahead and help us, get there? It's just that the entire industry coming along. You've got many, many good speakers coming in, people who are doyens in the Indian healthcare industry. That's what is actually going ahead and exciting me the most. That you've got a very, very large panel, a very intelligent panel, a very experienced panel coming in, and just spending time with that would actually go ahead and make us all lot more intelligent when we go back. And the hospitals in the world is definitely going to become a safer place. So the overarching theme, if you actually start, the excitement is that the entire intent is to make hospitals in the world safer places to actually go ahead and live in. So that's what is exciting.
So thank you so much. We are really looking forward to hearing you at the conference, to meet you in person at the conference. And we really appreciate your time today for this specific session to tell us about your experiences, your learnings, and also some of the secret mantras that we could carry back and see how we can inculcate some of these things in our daily lives or in our leadership styles. So once again, really appreciate. Thank you so much. And I look forward to meeting you at the conference.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks, mate, and have a good evening.
You too as well. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.